The Boston Bruins, man, if it wasn't bad enough during the season, they're going to make it worse for you on the way out the door. A week after their season ends, the Bruins have their kind of end of season press conference. GM Don Sweeney, President Cam Neely, owner Charlie Jacobs. And it was a disaster. A disaster. A masterclass in how to not handle this situation. And I guess, to be fair, it's been a while since they've had to deal with this bad a team and this bad an exit press conference, but this was no excuse for what we saw today. The only positive that comes out of it is the fact that the brass is saying they are looking for a new coach, one with some offensive innovation. That's what we all want to hear, guys. That's what we all want to hear. Of course, you have not fired your interim coach right now. So he's sitting at home with his thumb up his ass saying, oh, okay, I guess I'm fired. I guess I'll clean out my office now after being here for 11 years. Like, I know interims aren't meant to stay, but that's how this team handles it. Everything else in this press conference was even worse. Okay, starting with this absolute bullshit line and this minute of bullshit by Charlie Jacobs. Oh, this was a bad season. It's unacceptable. But also, we're going to run it back.
And speaking of Cam and Don, I'm proud to sit alongside these two gentlemen because I know we've got the right people in the right seats on the bus to bring this franchise back to glory. Now, let me be clear. The results from last season are absolutely unacceptable, and accountability has never been higher. However, I need to tell you that when deciding what is best for the long-term success of this franchise, we have to be pragmatic and use data-driven decisions. Now, Cam and Don, in their respective roles as president and general manager, have proven that they can take a franchise that has missed the playoffs and build one for sustained success. It is my opinion that we can do it again, and this time get over the hump and become a Stanley Cup champion.
What a load, man. Are you kidding? The accountability has never been higher. But we're not going to fire anybody but the coach. It's the coach's fault again. It's not the guys beside me, because Cam Neely can kick my ass and Don Sweeney is mean. Like, accountability's never been higher, but we're keeping everyone in place. Like, what a joke, man. What, are you kidding me? By the way, Charlie Jacobs has the best line of the presser, I think, a little bit later on in that answer, because he talks about Don's resume, and he says, you know, there's a reason why we are tied for the highest win percentage in the NHL in Don Sweeney's tenure here, which is now the Boston Bruins version of Dan Duquette saying most days in first place. Remember that? Remember that when Dan Duquette got canned at the end of 2002 and he said the season was a success when they missed the playoffs because they spent the most days in first place? That's essentially what Charlie Jacobs just gave to you 20 years later about this Bruins team. Finished in the basement of the Eastern Conference this year, but in the last 9 years, they're tied for the highest win percentage in the league. They made one conference final in that time, but damned if they don't win in the regular season. You know, Tampa's made like 4 conference finals and 3 Stanley Cup finals in that span. You know, Washington's won a cup. Florida's been to 2 cup finals and won a cup. These teams that you're competing with. But 2 President's Trophies, baby. They make a banner for that. It's such a joke, man, what we're going through with this. And it shouldn't shock anybody. I mean, around the league, people might be surprised, but with what we know with the Bruins, it shouldn't be a surprise that he's just going to run it back. He's just going to roll with the same guys. Because Don Sweeney, he's rebuilt a team before. Remember when they missed the playoffs 9 years ago? He rebuilt the team. The core was still there. He rebuilt a team with Zdeno Chara, Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Tuukka Rask, and David Pastrnak. Every single one of those guys was drafted or signed or brought to the team some way or another by somebody else. None of those are Don Sweeney guys, not even Pasternak. That was a Chiarelli draft pick. So yeah, he's rebuilt the team before by signing an aging core that was brought in by different guys. And so yeah, let's just roll it back with him. He's made one good draft pick in 10 years. Let's just keep rolling with that guy. Because if nothing else, at least he has the folksiness that we want running this team. And that at the end of a bad season where they bottomed out, they were one of the worst teams in the league in basically every statistical category, and they'll probably be picking in the top 5 in the NHL draft this year. After a season like that, you know Don Sweeney's going to attack this with some humility. He is going to take accountability, and he is going to admit his mistakes and move forward.
And I am curious if there's been any questioning of you based on dismissing 3 coaches in your tenure, any pushback about getting enough time to do the job?
From the coaches themselves?
Yeah.
I'll call you up and let you know, Tara, if somebody turns it down the invitation to interview for one of the most historic jobs in the National Hockey League. I understand.
Have that conversation.
I've gone through one coaching search.
Wow. Can you believe that? Can you believe that he snapped back like an asshole? Can you believe that this whole press conference, they're talking about accountability after a dog shit season, and that after every question, they're going to get defensive with you? The reporters, the media, the fans of this team, they're going to snap back at you. Where do these guys get off? Seriously. Do they understand this town at all? Total brain dead, zero accountability in that room, man. Zero. And still, somehow, I'm seeing Bruins fans defending Don Sweeney. There's not a lot, but there are some Bruins fans vehemently defending Don Sweeney on social media. One of which being an account I like, by the way, which is Michael Sullivan. He does a Bruins podcast. I usually think his takes are spot on, but not today, man. Because this is an echo or sentiment that's echoed by a few Bruins fans out there. The 2019 collapse in the finals, is that Don Sweeney's fault? Best regular season ever, Don Sweeney's fault? Pasta extension, great AAV, Don Sweeney's fault? Tied for the best point percentage in the league since Don took over? When do you blame the players for not getting the job done? There's a decent point in there. When do you blame the players? I think 2023, I think that was on the players, man. They didn't get it done. 2019 shouldn't have lost in the final. They could have used another scoring winger that Donnie could have got at the trade deadline, but he didn't. But here's what I say about that. How about adding all of those things up? All of those are failures under Don Sweeney's tutelage, under his watchful eye. So when does it not become exceptions and become a trend? That's what I'm wondering. Because, I watch a lot of Bar Rescue with John Taffer. Let's take it to a real-world situation that's not a professional sports team. Okay, let's say you're working at a bar or restaurant, and the whole staff sucks. Okay, anytime the place gets slammed, they suck. The bartenders, the waitresses, the waiters, the hosts, the chefs, none of them can get it right. And they just piss all over themselves. You would say, wow, this is a bad staff. But as an owner of the bar, it's on me. I hired these people. I trained these people. Let's get a new staff in here. And then the new staff is even worse. At what point are you the jackass as the bar owner for saying, oh, it's the staff again. It's the staff. Look what I bring in these great people. They're so nice to the customers. They suck at their job, but they're nice to the customers. Whenever do we just keep blaming the staff? No, we keep blaming the bar owner who keeps hiring these people. And of course, the whole team doesn't suck or hasn't in most years. I mean, most of the team this year sucked. But it's just baffling to me that we're going to defend this guy after that. And one of my favorite Bruins players of all time, a guy I still look up to, is Cam Neely. But his hands are not clean in this either. And the thing that bugs me the most, even more than how dog shit the team is that when the media actually asks questions and they try to hold these guys their feet to the fire, this is the kind of crap that we get.
Neither of them have really been up to expectations, in my opinion.
So can you just elaborate on that, Kevin?
The drafting?
Yeah.
Well,
where we've picked and who we've picked and how it's turned out.
Seriously, that's the attitude that you're going to have? You guys have drafted one impact player. I mean, two with Swayman. I guess jury's still out on Swayman, but I guess he's impact. Two guys in that span. And he's specifically asking about the 2015 draft, which is one of the biggest cluster Fs in the history of the Bruins. 3 straight draft picks. 2 of them are not NHL players. And the other one is Jake DeBrusk, who was fine, but then he ran a Stanley Cup winning coach out of town. And then you didn't even re-sign him when all you needed this year was secondary scoring. You don't replace him. He goes and has a career year for the Vancouver Canucks with 28 goals. And you're sitting here at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And then Cam Neely has the balls to snap back at the media for asking a very reasonable question. Kevin Paul DuPont's kind of a douche, but that's a reasonable question there. But no, somebody else's fault. Not our fault. Not our fault. We weren't even picking in the first round most of the time because we traded those picks for Rick Nash and Tyler Bertuzzi and Hampus Lindholm and Andre Kasha to get rid of that albatross David Backes contract that was in the first summer of free agency for, Don Sweeney. It's nobody else's fault. It's everybody else's fault, according to them. But it's really nobody else's fault than this front office. And yet they still don't take any ownership of it. None. And I saw another great tweet out here that is going to really illuminate a lot of this, I'll say. I don't even know if that's the right word. Mike from Woburn, who's an annoying caller into Sports Talk Radio, he says, today's a good time to remind you that Cam Neely was brought in by the Jacobs family to be a franchise figurehead because Charlie was fed up with dealing with the disgruntled fans before they started kind of building this thing back at 07 or so. Charlie has never been about addressing his and his family's accountability to the state of the Bruins. And he never will because they don't really care. They don't really like hockey. They like getting the money from the playoff gates. And you'd think that missing the playoffs would have forced them to make a move, but it doesn't. They found a way around it. They raised ticket prices. And by the way, Kevin Paul DuPont also asked about that. He said, look, you guys, you're raising ticket prices 4% this year. You announced that before the end of the season. It was such a bad season. Have you thought about rescinding that? Because, you raised it 9% last year. And Charlie Jacobs just fumbles through an answer. You're paying more for your electric bill than you did last year. And we got to pay parking attendants and concession workers. And basically, we got to give them a livable wage, but I can't get out of my bottom dollar here. I can't take my bottom line out of this. It's such bullshit, man. It's the same old crap. You try and go to a Bruins game now? Take out a loan, man. It's $150 to get in the door to see the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And they have the balls to tell you, well, we got to pay our concession workers, and I can't take money out of my pocket. We're going to raise ticket prices for this team. It's beyond a joke. Beyond a joke. And it makes me think of, I had this teacher in high school, one of my favorite teachers ever. Big time hockey fan. I'm talking like hockey coach, state champion hockey coach, like really knows his stuff. Grew up in the area, grew up a Bruins fan. And at one point he turned. He actually became a Canadiens fan, which Casa, I don't like that. And I don't endorse the decision to change your team. I'll never change my team. But whenever asked, he would always say the same thing. He would say, because at some point we realized that Bruins ownership didn't give a shit. Didn't care. They weren't going to make the right moves to make this team a real Stanley Cup contender, and they were always going to feed you a line They were going to continue to hire their guys, their cronies. Matt Barry, our Thursday guest from Bruins Benders, always calls them incestual. It's a family thing. And they're always going to feed you lines like this. They're going to raise ticket prices. They're going to change the uniforms so that you'll buy new jerseys. And they'll say, no, these are our guys. Look at the point percentage. Because we know in Boston, that's what we care about. We really care about point percentage in the regular season. Stanley Cup banners, Eastern Conference Finals appearances, who cares about those? Look at the point percentage. Can we hang a banner for 2023? Most regular season points, most regular season wins? They would if they could. They would if they could get away with it in this town. But they're just going to continue to feed you this crap. It was such an embarrassing press conference. The fact that they're getting combative with us, the Bruins fans, and shout out to the media for asking the questions that the Bruins fans actually want asked. Usually the media is too full of themselves. This day they got it right. They were representing the fans today. And they get shit on. Again, every Don Sweeney press conference is the same. It's everyone else's fault. And how dare you ask him a question? How dare you? He's getting away with murder in this front office. And it's only going to get worse, Bruins fans. It's only going to get worse. This is not spoiled fans who are just used to winning. These are fans who want something new. This is not fans who aren't willing to accept that eras end. They're not letting it end. They're not changing anything. The era is over. That core is done. Marchand isn't even here anymore. And instead of building this team around McAvoy and Pasternak in their prime, we're just going to keep running it back. It's embarrassing, man. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. How embarrassing was this as a Bruins fan? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Only about 10% of you watching are actually subscribed to the channel. We're bringing you nothing but Boston sports news every weekday, live on YouTube, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air every day.